Hey, welcome to a video that's not just another tutorial. This is a revolution in ball-jointed dolls, in the very best sense of that widely overused and maybe just a little chaotic word. Let's talk numbers. We all know that custom BJD dolls are not cheap. I mean, they're basically luxury art pieces, often priced in the thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars. Owning one feels like owning a little piece of human creativity in miniature form. But what if I told you that instead of paying tens of thousands for a doll, you can make your own for under $100? And not just any doll, but a doll that's uniquely yours, with every joint and expression handcrafted by you. Here is my recipe for success: 2 packs of polymer clay, some affordable hardware, a pair of glass eyes, and wig, and a bit of fabric. Through a few months of evening sculpting sessions, perfect for winding down after a long day, and voila, you are well on your way to making your own BJD. Oh, and don't forget, for just €49, you will get access to my exclusive step-by-step tutorials designed to take you from total beginner to BJD master. Now that's revolutionary. Think about it. While people out there are spending thousands of dollars on finished product, you are investing your time and passion into creating something truly priceless. And the best part, you will have a deeper connection with your creation because you made it with your own hands. What's more fulfilling than that? And if you're still worried about messing up, don't stress, it's clay, not your life savings. Where do dolls come from? Spoiler, you. So, where do these dolls actually come from? Well, they come from you. I have made 3 dedicated episodes just for beginners that explain the basics of BJD doll making. And if you haven't checked them out yet, what are you waiting for? If you have watched those episodes, you already know the joy that comes from bringing a BJD doll to life. You have experienced the transformation from a lump of clay to something that feels almost human. Or at least that the goal, no judgments if your first attempt looks more like a Picasso than a Rembrandt. But what's most exciting about doll making is how it taps into both your creativity and technical skills. It's like combining the discipline of a sculptor with the freedom of an artist. You are not just making a doll, you are making a character, a story, a piece of art that will last a lifetime. It's deeply personal, and every doll you create will reflect a part of you. The collector's journey, why so expensive and why it's worth it. Let's talk about the traditional collector's journey for a moment. Why are BJD dolls so expensive? Well, there is a reason for that. When you order a custom BJD doll, you are commissioning not just a doll, but a work of art. You get to choose the skin tone, face type, body shape, hands. Yes, you can have gesture hands, and even details like whether or not you want the doll to stand on in heels. After that, you send the blank doll off to an artist who paints it, another person makes the wig, and yet another crafts the outfit. And after a month of waiting, you find yourself staring out the window, hoping your package doesn't get lost, damaged, or worse, swept out for a cheap knockoff. Admit it, how many times have you felt the anxiety of waiting for your precious dolls to arrive safely? It's like being on a roller coaster of emotions. But here is the real kicker. While all this sounds exciting, the material themselves, resin, wigs, eyes, are not internal. You are investing so much in something that will eventually wear down, and while it's worth for the artistry and the emotional value, let's face it, it's a process as exhausting as it is expensive. Now here is where I come in. Imagine coming to my studio, where instead of commissioning and waiting, you will learn how to make your own doll from scratch. You will walk with me every step on the way.
It is always scary. I traveled alone as a woman, and I'm very far from my country, and you don't really know what you get. But Anna's the real thing. She takes good care of you. She supports you. She takes you from the beginning to the end. It's really worth your while to come.
And trust me, once you start creating, the whole world of BJD dolls will open up for you in ways you never thought possible.
I don't have any art background whatsoever, but Anna was nice and she said, listen, I'll help you, I'll take you through this. If you screw up, we'll fix it. And she's been brilliant. And as you can see, after almost day 9, it's day 8 for us today. This is how far we are. Tomorrow we're finishing and I'm super excited.
The magic of silicone molds. Shortcuts to success. Now let's get real for a second. Making a BJD doll from scratch sounds intimidating, right? Sculpting every little joint and limb? For a beginner, that can seem like trying to climb Mount Everest without any training. But don't worry, I have a secret weapon that will save you months, maybe even years of frustration. Silicone molds. These molds are like a shortcut to success. You don't have to master every tiny detail of sculpting right away. I have already done that hard work for you. Using these molds, you can quickly get the basic structure of your doll, which you can then customize to your heart's content. Want more joints? Go for it. Want to tweak the proportions? It's all up to you. You get to fast-track the boring technical stuff and jump straight to the fun part, making your doll uniquely yours. And in my studio, I don't just hand you a mold and say, good luck. No, we go through the entire process together, step by step. By the time you leave, you will have a doll that you have personally crafted using my tried and true methods. It's like I always say, you don't have to be an expert to make something extraordinary. And if you accidentally drop a half-finished doll and panic, yeah, we have all been there. But the best part of making your own doll, you can fix it yourself. Don't forget to subscribe and press like, by the way. Now let's get a bit philosophical. People make dolls, but dolls also make people. There is something almost mystical about dolls comes to life. You start with a set of parts, some clay, some joints, maybe a little wig, and suddenly something that didn't exist before takes shape. And in that process, something changes in you as well. It's hard to explain, but every time I have made a doll, it feels like a part of me gets transferred into it. It's almost like the doll reflects not just my artistic skills, but my emotions, my personality, my thoughts at the time. And believe me, that's a wild experience, giving a piece of yourself to something you create. There is also the thrill of the unknown. No matter how many dolls I have made, every new creation feels like it has its own unique energy. You never know exactly how it's going to turn out, and that unpredictability is part of the journey. It's almost like the doll has a life of its own, and you are just guiding it into existence. And yes, sometimes that life looks more like an extra form of horror movie. But hey, that's part of the charm. So why do people go to such great lengths to create something so small, so delicate, and so time-consuming? Because it's not just about the doll. It's about the journey. It's about becoming a creator in your own right. And once you have made one, you will realize there is no turning back. You are a doll maker for life. The guests, the stories that will stay with me forever. Every time someone steps into my studio and brings with them a unique story, a piece of their life that intertwines with the doll they're about to create. Recently, I had 2 incredible guests whose journeys deeply touched me. Their stories were so powerful that I want to share them with you today. The first guest was from Canada. She had dreamed of making her own BJD doll for years, and her determinations were nothing short of inspiring. But what struck me most was her story of resilience. 10 years ago, she had overcome some serious health challenges, and that experience changed her life forever. When she finally recovered, she decided it was time to stop postponing her dreams. One of her first big decisions, she bought herself a horse, a lifelong passion she had always wanted to pursue but had put off for too long. By the time she arrived at my studio, she was ready to tackle her next dream, creating her very own ball-jointed doll. Throughout the week, I watched her poured that same fierce determination into sculpting, painting, and designing her doll. It was clear that this wasn't just about the art of doll making. It was about proving to herself that anything is possible when you decide to chase your dreams, no matter how big or small they may seem. The second guest came from South Africa, and her story was filled with such heart that it stayed with me long after she left. She had come to my studio to fulfill a dream that was once shared with her mother. Her mother had been an accomplished artist herself, and together they had often talked about making a ball-jointed doll. Sadly, her mother passed away before they could bring that dream to life. In the years that followed, this guest held on to that dream not just as a creative pursuit, but as a way of keeping her mother's memory alive. She decided that even though her mother was no longer with her, she would still honor their shared vision by creating the doll they had always dreamed making together. When she arrived in my studio, I could feel the depths of her emotions. This wasn't just about making a doll, it was about connection, memory, and love. As we walked through the week, there were moments of quiet reflection and moments of joy as she saw her creation begin to take shape. By the end of the process, when she finally held the finished doll in her hands, it was a deeply emotional moment. The doll wasn't just a beautiful piece of art, it was a tribute, a lasting memory of the bond she had shared with her mother. These two women reminded me why I love what I do. Doll making is about so much more than creating an object. It's about the stories we carry, the memories we cherish, and the ways we choose to honor the people and moments that shape us. Every doll is a piece of someone's journey, and I am incredibly grateful to be a part of this process. From human stories to a drunk baboon on the railway, talking with my South African student really opened my eyes to a world of fascinating stories from her country. But after our deep emotional discussions, I started digging a little deeper into some of the quirky tales from South Africa's story. One story that I couldn't get out of my head was about Jack the baboon, a railway assistant like no other. This is a story that at first sounds completely unbelievable until you realize it's 100% true. So here is the scoop. Jack was no ordinary baboon. He was the trusted assistant of a railway signalman named James White, a double-leg amputee who worked for Cape Town Port Elizabeth Railway in the late 19th century. Before his assistant, James was known for jumping between moving rail cars, hence the nickname Jumper. But after losing both legs in an accident, he found himself in need of help. Naturally, his solution was to buy a baboon, and not just any baboon. Jack turned out to be a quick learner. James trained him to push his wheelchair and, more impressively, to operate the railway signals under supervision. Yep, a baboon was running the show at a railway station, and no one noticed anything odd at first. Now you might think this sounds too crazy to be true, but for several years things went smoothly. Jack was performing his duties like a pro, and James continued receiving his salary. But of course, things couldn't stay under the radar forever. One day, a wealthy lady sipping her morning tea in the first-class compartment glanced out the window and saw a baboon changing the railway signals. Naturally, she was horrified. I mean, wouldn't you be? She immediately wrote a letter to the authorities, and as you can imagine, an official investigation was launched. What happened next is the real twist. The railway company, naturally skeptical, sent inspectors to investigate this bizarre report. They expected to find some kind of treat or con, but when they arrived, they were blown away. Jack, under James' guidance, was doing the job perfectly. Every lever pulled, every switch flipped flawlessly. So in a move that I think shocked everyone, including James, Jack was officially hired by the railway. He received a daily wage of 20 cents and, get this, half of bottle of brandy a week as part of his pay. Now let's pause for a moment and appreciate the absurdity of the situation. A baboon employed by the railway, waiting brandy and doing his job better than some humans. And here is the kicker. In the 9 years that Jack worked, he never made a single mistake. Not one. I can help but marvel at the fact that this wasn't just a baboon flipping switches, it was a tipsy baboon in charge of public safety. Of course, the story had its bumps. Initially, after that woman's report, the railway company had tried to fire both Jake and James, accusing them of fraud and misrepresentation. They even stripped James on both his salary and Jack's. James, determined and persistent, flooded the company with letters, defending their work, arguing that they were both doing their jobs and doing them well. After much back and forth, the railway company caved and not only reinstated their positions, but also allowed Jack to continue his work. This unlikely duo worked for 9 more years without a single incident. Now, isn't it wild to think that one of the society's most reliable workers back when was not just a baboon, but a drunk baboon? Honestly, if Jack would handle that kind of responsibility with a half bottle of brandy in his system, I'm pretty sure most of us can manage to learn how to make a ball-jointed doll. Now, speaking of the wild history of baboons, in South Africa, I also learned that it was not uncommon for people to get baboons drunk in order to control them. Yes, that's right. They used brandy to bribe baboons into running errands. The logic was simple. Give the baboon a little drink, and suddenly they were more compliant and willing to obey commands. Was this ethical? Absolutely not. Was it effective? Apparently so. And while it may sound cruel, there is a certain irony here. These baboons may have eventually succumbed to liver disease, but they were certainly living longer, more exciting lives than their wild cousins who were dodging predators and foraging for food all day. Although, let's be honest, if given the choice, I am pretty sure I had chosen running errands in exchange for brandy over dealing with leopards in the wild any day. But let me clarify one thing. I am definitely not comparing my students to baboons. My students are incredibly talented, motivated, and creative individuals. But if a baboon like Jack could manage complex tasks like railway signaling and do it while half drunk, then I am confident that anyone can learn how to sculpt a doll. After all, doll making is a lot less complicated than running a train system, and you don't even need brandy to get the job done. Now feel free to book your spot on my website if you want to come to Barcelona and catch the last race of summer, even in February. If not, I still recommend you not to go anywhere just yet. I have got some exciting things planned for the future. I have been taking you behind the scenes of my most successful BJD making process. So if you have been itching to get started, now is the time. I'm also working on a brand new series of all about wooden dolls. In the meantime, drop a comment below, let me know what you think, and don't forget to subscribe. And hey, if you know anyone who is into crafts or has always wanted to try doll making, share this video with them. Let's build a community and help each other reach that first orbital speed. Together, we are making history one doll at a time. Watch my other episode. They're still pretty fresh. Those videos will inspire you, motivate you, and more importantly, give you the confidence to finally start to making your dream doll. In the first episode, I talk you through the technical steps, because yes, doll making has nitty-gritty details you will want to master. But don't worry, it's not rocket science, even though BJD might look like some advanced engineering. The second episode is all about avoiding rookie mistakes. And let's be honest, we have all been there. And in the third, I focus entirely on the face, because as we all know, the face is where the magic happens.